Hey there, it's another beautiful day. Let's watch some stuff.
So this is a certificate, specifically a certificate of live birth. A bond is a certificate, and a certificate is written assurance. A bond is also evidence of a debt, which would be a certificate of indebtedness, which is an obligation issued by a corporation having the same effect as a bond. And the issuing corporation can lien against all the property of the corporation it created, meaning that if you have a birth certificate, which is a certificate of indebtedness, the state is now allowed to lien against all your property. And in banking, this is referred to as a certificate of deposit, as a government security, the same as a treasury certificate, which you are the intended beneficiary of. To claim this certificate, will be done through special deposit, which is a deposit that is made for a specific purpose that is to be returned to the depositor, and that creates a bailment or trust.
Sometimes all of this United States corporation stuff makes my head spin a little bit, and I definitely feel like we are paying back some kind of a debt, especially with the way everything is taxed constantly. You just can't get away from it.
Is down there.
Giant monsters.
And who are they and why are they here?
They're a natural defense mechanism from the planet. They've been here longer than any of us have, or since before the dinosaurs even. These are creatures that go back millions of years potentially and have been living there for a very, very long time. My personal encounter with them is they're highly intelligent, and I guarantee you a living creature that's 200 or 300 feet tall, that's, several 100,000 or a million years old, has a consciousness that probably defies understanding from me or you anyway.
How long have they been here?
Millions of years, probably even maybe since the beginning of the planet.
Could you give me an example of what one of these giants look like?
Sure. I've only had one personal experience that I can relate. While I have been briefed on the subject and I could describe a few other things, I only have one personal experience that I was there for, saw with my own eyes, and experienced with my own five senses. So if you want to imagine something that resembles a big furry primate, maybe like a sloth that walks on its hands and is covered with hair that looks like giant dreadlocks.
How tall do you think, could you estimate?
I would estimate that it was probably between 250 and 300 feet tall.
How do they grow to such an extreme size, and why aren't we not seeing them on the surface?
Well, I think we're talking about pre-primordial time, so we're talking about before the dinosaurs, when plants and animals were even larger. So I think we're just talking about they came from a time when biological life grew bigger.
Jesus Christmas. 200 to 300 feet tall beings living inside of our Earth. Why not?
Remote viewing, what I'd have to do is I come up with what they call a coordinate, and it actually started as a coordinate. They'd actually get a longitude and latitude degree coordinate, give them that coordinate, and then their mind would go there, and they were able to study it, because if I gave you the coordinates of the North Pole, for example, and you say, well, okay, I'm there, and it's cold, and it's white, and I see a bear, but he's all white. Well, then, wow, polar bear, North Pole, so you're there. But pretty soon they realized you don't even really have to have a real coordinate. So now the coordinate number is simply a number that represents the target. Now, how all this works, nobody's absolutely sure. It's a very strange thing, and it's very metaphysical.
The remote viewing and psychic abilities, it eludes me. I'm too firmly planted in the thought. I was about to say fact, but the thought that it can't happen. I just need to let it go.
Take a look at what they found in the Grand Canyon. You know the 20-foot tall Grand Canyon people that the wedding couple found earlier this week that scared them away? Well, this is the creature. It is an unidentified creature. It's known to be very violent. It seems that we don't know any more information, that it came from an asteroid or a UFO.
I'm going to go ahead and call bull duty on this one. It just looks like a rock formation. If you look at it at the right angle, it looks like a giant, and it's violent? Really? Come on.
See, one of the biggest problems with the opioid epidemic and how Big Pharma basically flooded the United States with opioids back in the early 2000s is this comment right here. People who actually need this medication, need opioids for pain, aren't able to get what they need because of the overcorrection in the market. Painkillers themselves aren't the issue. They do their job. The problem is the way that they were marketed and the way that Big Pharma basically had a big operation to flood the market and make people addicted to drugs that they told people weren't addictive. And it's really unfortunate for two different reasons. One, people really do need this medication. And two, the people who were pushed onto these drugs by doctors and Big Pharma were then pushed towards heroin and now fentanyl once they took these drugs off the market. Which, guess what? After that, Big Pharma came out with maintenance drugs like Suboxone to give you the cure while also feeding you the problem. Go figure. It's all bullshit. And why did this happen? Because of this. The money. They were willing to trade money for people's lives.
He's absolutely right. It's incredibly difficult for somebody who actually has chronic pain to get proper pain management. You have to go see a specialist. You got to pee in a cup and you got to do it every 30 days. It's a pain in the ass. But people who need it got to do it. And Big Pharma, man. Oh, man, Big Pharma. I love talking crap about Big Pharma. Screw those people.
When you look at the pictures of people that have been taking Ozempic, is their face starts looking sunken in, like somebody that is malnourished. And so what are your thoughts about this overuse of Ozempic?
Ozempic is FDA approved for type 2 diabetes. The main reason why they're causing you to lose weight is that they create satiety. So you don't feel as hungry. And so because you're not feeling as hungry, you're eating less in general. But like you talked about, they slow everything down. They slow down food from moving from the stomach into the intestines. And that is actually a really bad thing because when food sits right in your stomach, there's a major gut bacteria called H. pylori, which can live in the stomach. And if food is just sitting there, that can overgrow. And H. pylori, what it actually does is it shuts down your body's ability to produce stomach acid. You need really good stomach acid to metabolize food. And H. pylori limits your ability to do that, which is going to cause nutrient deficiencies in your system.
I'm going to assume that nutrient deficiency is why they look so sunken in the face and just discolored and everybody's just looking for a quick fix. You know, eat right, go for a walk, take it slow, do it right. Don't look sunken in and busted. Hey, thanks so much for stopping by today. If you're having a good time, won't you hit that like button for me and consider subscribing? And then come back tomorrow because I'm making a new episode every day. And hey, if you got something to say, leave me a comment because I respond to everybody.
This video has been posted on the dark web under the title, The Exclusive Truth of the Dark Web. The name itself says a lot. What are we to understand with this video? And what are these strange things? The problem with dark web videos is that they are posted anonymously, so it's impossible to know more, but the end will reveal a terrible thing.
I'm not sure what to make of that. I can't tell if it was a really good fake or a really bad, creepy thing.
In the U.S., almost all restaurants are buying from one single company called Sysco Foods, and they buy pretty much the same stuff. So you go to all these restaurants that have different flavors, but they're all selling you the same things. The U.S. has allowed a huge number of artificial flavors, artificial colorings, and other compounds in foods that are illegal in Europe. So you think you're getting a French fry in the US, but it doesn't have the same ingredients, even say from McDonald's. The list of ingredients is entirely different. In Europe, it's going to have some kind of oil that's probably not good for you, and it's going to have some salt and some potatoes. And in the US, there's a huge long list of things, and they do that to drive costs down or to make it more addictive. So the reason is you think you're eating the same food, but you're not. There's a lot more chemicals in American food. On top of that, well, you are surrounded by pesticides and herbicides at much higher levels. The water quality in the US is lower. And what's going on there is you're not actually putting on a pound of fat. You're putting on a pound of inflammation. It's hard to put a pound of fat on in 1 week. You can do it, but it's really hard.
Oh yeah, there's tons of chemicals in our food. My husband used to work at a place that manufactured flavorings for like bakeries, like the Costco bakery. It's made right here, the flavorings that go in those. And just the stuff that they had shipped in every day it'll make your head spin.
I saw a video today of this man at like a press conference kind of thing. And he was at one point like pretty high ranked, or like made it pretty high up in the Air Force. He was some sort of like electrical engineer. And he was telling this story about 30 years ago. He was brought into this group for NASA there's something going on with their lunar satellite. It like wasn't receiving. He walked into this room and there was scientists from all over the world. He's like, this is strange for NASA to have scientists from all over the world. And then he was debriefed by this one guy. He said the guy, when he was presenting this stuff, he was like kind of nervous. And he's like, these are pictures that we have from the dark side of the moon.
They have pictures?
There's a base camp on the dark side of the moon. And he was showing pictures of all these buildings, mushroom-shaped buildings. He said it's top secret. And so like he came out and was like, I've been waiting for them to talk about this news for 30 years and they haven't done it yet. And I hope by me saying this, they'll bring that out.
That were to be true, that would change everything.
Would be so. He said it was a massive base camp.
Gosh, the amount of stuff that must be on the dark side of the moon, because you can hide anything up there. We're never going to see it.
This video is about a half-hour long video that supposedly was sourced from a VHS tape that was found in the late 1980s or maybe even early 1990s. It was dubbed and redubbed for circulation and sale among bootleg collectors, often under the table at horror conventions or through mail-order tape trading communities.
You might find it around the jaw. It might be left there. Okay, so when you bring out the jaw, so I'll show you later. I'm in the real coffin itself.
Sometimes the tape was even sold in a video compilation along with other gruesome home videos, often bearing the title, Ensuring Your Place in Hell.
So you could lose it real fast, alright? So when you find it, okay, the jaw is usually like that. I'm around this shape, okay? It's like
the source of the original footage, as well as the identity of the young man in the video, still remains unknown, even up to 3 decades later.
That's pretty creepy. It makes me feel like maybe it was just a bunch of kids out, digging somewhere they weren't supposed to be digging. Also, it may be a Halloween decoration, I don't know.
Did you know a man named Ingo Swann claimed to see things no one else could? Swann was not just any ordinary individual, he was an artist, a psychic, and a pioneer in the field of remote viewing. His extraordinary claims have fascinated and baffled people for decades. In his book Penetration, Swann describes secret government projects involving remote viewing, an ability that allows individuals to perceive distant or unseen targets using extrasensory perception. This wasn't just a hobby for Swann, it was a serious endeavor backed by government interest and funding. Remote viewing is a technique where he would see distant or hidden places using just his mind. Imagine being able to close your eyes and visualize a location thousands of miles away with startling accuracy. Swann's accounts of his experiences are both intriguing and controversial. Swann even claimed to view secret bases on the moon, saying he saw structures and even signs of life. These weren't just vague impressions, he described specific details like buildings, roads, and even humanoid figures. His descriptions were so vivid that they seemed almost too fantastical to believe. He was part of a classified program where his abilities were tested again and again. Scientists and researchers were both skeptical and fascinated, putting him through rigorous tests to validate his claims. The results were often astonishing, leaving even the most hardened skeptics scratching their heads. But here's the crazy part. Some of his observations were later confirmed by satellite images. Imagine the shock and disbelief when satellite photos showed structures eerily similar to what Swann had described. This added a layer of credibility to his claims that was hard to ignore. His claims have sparked endless debates and curiosity about what the human mind is truly capable of. Could it be that we all possess untapped psychic abilities, or was Swann an extraordinary exception? The scientific community remains divided, with some advocating for more research and others dismissing it as pseudoscience. So what do you think? Was Swann seeing the future, or just making it all up? His story challenges our understanding of reality and pushes the boundaries of what we consider possible. Whether you believe in his abilities or not, there's no denying that Ingo Swann's life and work continue to captivate and inspire.
The first time I ever heard of Ingo Swann was like 5 months ago. I came across an episode of the Y-Files, and it was absolutely fantastic. AJ did a beautiful job telling his story. So on the Y-Files, find Ingo Swann's story. I'm not sure what it's called. I'll see if I can find it, and I'll pop a link in the description.
I can't unsee this. Please tell me I'm not the only one seeing it. I want my mind to be playing tricks on me, but
I find it particularly interesting that that popped up in my feed after what we talked about with Queen Elizabeth and the royals yesterday. That's a little weird.
We are being poisoned, literally poisoned with the food, the environment, with all the non-native EMFs. You know, as a country, we spend the most amount on healthcare and we have the worst outcomes. Greater than 50% of adults in the United States, overweight, tired, depressed, on multiple pharmaceuticals. And that is the standard of care. And so for me, it's like, if I can get to know the people I work with well, we can transcend all of that and cut through that and find solutions. And it's a journey of solutions, and everyone has different goals. Everyone's an individual. Everyone comes to it with, you know, some people want to lose weight and some people want to work on their skin and some people want to detox. And there's just so many options. But I think what I'm enjoying now is really getting kind of to the crux of why are we, you know, lying, and me being a medical professional and being a part of that. Right. And we saw that with the whole COVID thing too, is a lot of lying going on.
Not only is our food loaded with crap, but our brains are getting loaded with crap too. With these overweight influencers telling everybody that you're fat phobic. No, it's okay to be big and beautiful and proud of yourself and comfortable in your own body. But the fact of the matter is, it's not healthy for your organs. It's just not. I've been overweight my entire life. And except for now and 2 other brief moments in my life was I ever normal weight. So yeah, it's difficult, but just gotta cut out the crap. Don't eat frickin' processed foods, and don't sit on your butt and think it's okay to get fatter because somebody else on, you know, TikTok says it's okay.
Oh yeah, coy wolves are a thing. They're taking over, and that could be a problem. Now, normally coyotes and wolves hate each other with every kind of prejudice. But with the wolf population nearly getting put in the gulag by a certain hairless primate, some wolves decided that a coyote was their last option. To be fair, weirder things have happened. Just ask the roller bears. This wolf-coyote collab resulted in a canid with both parents' DNA, which is why we now have coy wolves. And most coy wolves have some dog in them, and that I can't even explain. Now here's why it could be a problem. Wolves are fluffy tanks, but they're naturally afraid of people. Coyotes are born giving less of a but they're not really big enough to really be a threat unless you're like somebody's cat. Mixing them together is like playing Jurassic Park with puppies. So what you have now is an animal that isn't as afraid of people as wolves and can live around people while also being bigger than a normal coyote. To be fair, they're not really that dangerous to people and would still rather avoid you than fight you. Your pets are a different story with a worse ending. But in their defense, the only reason they exist is because we drained the wolves' dating pool to the point where they had to start piping coyotes. One thing about nature, she bites back.
I just learned about coy wolves the other day. My friend Paradigm Shift Now over on my Rumble page told me about them. And that's what happens when people go, you know, taking animals out and nature's like, oh no, we're going to remedy this.
They are legally poisoning us with artificial food dyes, but here's the scary thing. Here's a list of all the food dyes with the names that they're being changed to. Look, food dyes are BS. They're literally just implemented to make the food look more aesthetically pleasing. Look out for this change on food labels soon, and beware, stay away from it. Like this video for more information.
I feel like I got a little preachy about food on this episode today, but it's true. There's so much crap in our food and it's crazy. They're just like, here, have some more, because the FDA is regulated by the FDA.
So for hundreds of years, we've been telling you, and now you have to keep in mind that we took away any other God that you might have through force, through fear, through pain. So now I'm going to give you a God, but I'm going to do that in a way that it's going to further me. So I'm going to give you a God that looks like me, so that when you bow down to that God, you're bowing down to me. The Bible tells us what he's going to look like when he comes back. We have taken that and changed it. Do you remember when Jesus went to Egypt? He hid in Egypt. The people in Egypt, honey, they're not white people. How could he hide that? See, so that we've done that.
It's true. It's true. And that's a reason why I in particular am not a religious person. Just looking at the history and how religion was spread, it was just off-putting, and I decided to go my own way.
On February 25th, 1996, on Space Shuttle mission number STS-75,
NASA launched a possible breakthrough energy technology experiment. They launched a 12-mile-long electrical conductor cable called an electrodynamic tether, designed to collect high-energy electrons in the Earth's ionosphere and magnetic fields. The motion of the conductor tether across the Earth's magnetic fields induces a voltage along the 12-mile length of the tether. Utilizing estimates in the charge densities of the Earth's magnetic fields and the ionosphere, the voltage produced is expected to be up to several hundred volts per kilometer. If successful, the experiment could produce a lot of electrical power. If additional power is driven along the tether in the opposite direction to that which it normally wants to flow, the tether, in theory, could push, creating propulsion against the Earth's gravity to raise the shuttle's orbit. The advantage to this revolutionary technology in propulsion is that it does not require any rocket fuel. If successful, electrodynamic tethers could prove a way to greatly reduce the cost of in-space propulsion. For example, the International Space Station could keep itself in orbit, saving nearly $2 billion in orbital reboost rocket fuel for every 10 years of the station's operations. But on February 25th, after the 12-mile tether began producing electricity, an unexpected overload of electrical energy fluctuating between 2 and 10 times that predicted, due to inaccurate estimates in the electrical charge of the Earth's magnetic fields, ionosphere, and possibly space radiation, fried the tether conductor cable and it broke, severing it from the space shuttle.
So the tether has broken at the boom. The tether has broken. It is going away from us. Get it on the TV, Claude. Please get it on the TV. The tether has broken.
That is absolutely incredible. Why the heck aren't we continuing some experimentation with that? Because that's a fantastic breakthrough. Like almost 30 years ago. Imagine how far it could have gone by now. But did they just give up?
So supposedly there's a bunch of plasma floaty boys very high in the atmosphere, mainly existing in the thermosphere, but they may dip down in the ionosphere, and there's a reason for that. Now, they seem to just float, so there's some interaction with the gravito-electromagnetic effect. Now, the Earth has a telluric current underneath the crust. I don't know if somehow that has an interaction, these ELF waves, with the electrojet, which is in the ionosphere, very high up in the E region. And it's very hard to say because, believe it or not, Earth's not flat. Earth's very complicated. Has a lot of things going on. A lot of really weird things going on if you're really looking at the science of it. Now, mainstream science doesn't even acknowledge them. It says it's transient, luminous events, sprites, elves, jets, upper atmospheric lightning. But, if you watch the videos, I took this from Ontologically Shook on TikTok. You can watch his videos. I would have clipped it, but TikTok doesn't allow me to put a video over Stitch. So these elves, sprites, or whatever, these things high up in the atmosphere, they seem to have a mind of their own. Now, I don't know if this is linked to the Schumann resonance or, and they've been seen hovering around satellites, so they like EM waves. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think if you have any theories.
That's a cool theory. I like it. I like it. That's new to me, and I like new stuff. Do you have any theories on these plasma creatures or plasma beings?
Apples and pre-sliced potatoes, engineered not to brown when they're sliced. Now, these come from a different technology called double-stranded RNA. Now, the double-stranded RNA that's produced by the inserted gene, it's up to 22 nucleotides long, and it matches up with the same corresponding code in the DNA of the apple or potato. They link together and it gets silenced. The gene gets silenced. It's a little more technical, but that's what happens. The problem is that that same code could link up with our DNA and silence genes. They tested this concept with mice and found, yes, indeed, they could eat food-based RNA and it changed their gene expression in a cell in the liver. And they tested it with honeybees, and they fed the honeybees a single meal of double-stranded RNA. It was double-stranded RNA from something that had never been part of the honeybee diet and had never been part of the honeybee DNA, so they figured it would be a control, showing no impact. Over the next few weeks after the one single meal, over 1,400 genes changed levels of expression. 10% of the number of genes in the honeybee from a single meal. I talked to a government scientist who said that he tried to blow the whistle up, basically, saying that the government has no capacity to evaluate the impact of double-stranded RNA. He was forced out of his position, ostracized, he left. So even government scientists at the USDA and EPA warning about double-stranded RNA were ignored, and the potato and apple are on the market. Please avoid them. It could reprogram our DNA. Could be worse than all types of GMOs or
That's just mind-blowing. Absolutely frickin' mind-blowing. Don't you have bigger things to worry about than apples and potatoes browning? Like, I don't know, cancer? Oh wait, that's right. They already have the cure. It's just not cost effective for them to give it to you.
Over 50% of the total population are clones. And see, we've been dealing with the science of cloning since the Egypt and Atlantis days. So this is not new, but a lot of people are just now finding out about this, which really just shows you how far behind people really are. When you understand that the physical body is nothing more than a vessel for consciousness, then you start to see reality differently.
So if the people around you aren't NPCs, they're probably clones.
This man may have saved the most lives in history, and you've probably never heard of him. Was he a general or a politician? No. He was a farmer. This is Norman Borlaug, the father of the Green Revolution. In the 1950s and 60s, large parts of the world faced the threat of famine. But Borlaug won the Nobel Prize in 1970 for inventing new varieties of wheat and rice that fed like half the world. Some people estimate that the Green Revolution saved over 1 billion lives. But the movement was not without its critics. These practices encouraged monocropping and were heavily dependent on synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, and irrigation. It turns out, when it comes to feeding the world, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Yep, 'cause that was the birth of GMOs. I'm talking about putting crap in food again. I'm sorry. I think that's the last one.
This is something else that I don't want you to lose sight of. A very important fact here. Every single person who participated in the military remote viewing programs had direct personal knowledge of the UFOs. This is why they're downplaying it. This is the limited hangout. This is why they suppressed my book on remote viewing in 1995. I was talking about UFOs and remote viewing at the same breath, and they want to separate it. They don't mind admitting that they were dabbling around with psychic phenomena, but they do not want you to know that every single one of those people had direct knowledge of the UFOs. They saw where they were coming from. They saw where they're going to. According to several of the remote viewing studies, there are huge, huge ships that we've never even seen, parked on the dark side of Jupiter, Saturn, way on out there. There's people all over this system, okay? What we see, the huge big ships, okay, that's just the ones that kind of get them here to the Earth. What we mostly see are the little round saucer deals and all like that. These are scout ships. These are just... this is something that's bothered the researchers for years, Well, if these are ships and they come from another planet, where's the bathrooms? Where's the galley? How they eat, Well, they don't have to. They're never in these things probably more than an hour or two at a time, okay? There's little scout ships. And then you got little balls of light. These are like little TV cameras that fly around and look at things and stuff. This is technology that's far beyond us, okay? But to me, it's not harmful, because if it was harmful, we'd already be harmed, all right?
I love aliens. I love that explanation. I'm not particularly in love with remote viewing, but I love listening to that man talk.
Well, guys. They say the winners write the history books. And that is the one truth in this whole story. Did they ever teach you about the 400,000 people that were brutally massacred at Dresden with the Dresden bombings? 400,000 people died in 1 hour. Women, children, zoo animals, anything that had a pulse was pulverized. And then to make matters worse, all the rescuers and the survivors, of which there were few, huddled together in a park, and then the bombers came back and bombed and shot them down. Guys, what we're taught in school is not the truth, particularly around World War II. We need to research this. They're not heroes.
Yeah, I am pretty disappointed and embarrassed with my public school education, because in the last, 7-8 months, I have learned so much. My eyes have been opened to things that I never even thought were possible. And here it is right in front of you. We're just left to our own devices to find it on our own. And if you don't, they win. Because they're only going to teach you what they want to teach you. And I certainly never learned about that. On that note, I'm going to call it for today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Please come on back tomorrow. We're going to watch some new stuff. I'll say different things, and it's going to be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day.